The year was 2571, and the Confederation cruiser Aurora's Light hung in the silent void near the contested Talter Nebula. Its sleek hull reflected the prismatic light of distant stars, a testament to human engineering and the newfound alliance with the Aurelian people. Lieutenant Viara Tan stood at the observation deck, her iridescent third eye capturing the cosmic panorama before her. She was the only Aurelian officer permanently stationed aboard this vessel, part of an ambitious integration program between the species. The Aurora's Light had been performing routine weapons calibration runs for the past week. Nothing particularly exciting, but crucial work nonetheless. Tensions with the nearby pirate enclave were simmering, though not immediate. Intelligence suggested they were regrouping after a failed raid on a Confederation outpost. Viara adjusted her uniform collar. Even after 6 months aboard, she still found the human-designed fabric uncomfortable against her crimson-scaled neck. The sensation reminded her of her otherness, of being the sole representative of her kind among a crew of nearly 300 humans. "Lieutenant Tan," called a deep voice from behind. She turned to face Captain Marcus Harlow, her commanding officer. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and sharp, observant eyes that had initially unsettled her. Humans had only 2 eyes, which still struck her as an evolutionary disadvantage. "Yes, Captain," she responded, straightening her posture. "We've received word that an Aurelian protocol recruiter will be visiting tomorrow. Apparently, they're interested in observing our integration of the new reflex amplifier serum." His tone was professional, but Viara detected a hint of wariness. She knew Harlow had initially been skeptical about incorporating non-human officers into his crew. "I see. Is there anything specific you wish me to prepare?" she asked. "Just be available for questions. Dr. Sebastian will handle the technical aspects." He paused, then added, "Your cousin, Commander Arik Tan, will be part of the delegation." Viara's third eye pulsed with a momentary flash of anxiety. Arik was not just family. He was a high-ranking officer known for his uncompromising standards. His presence would add pressure to what should have been a routine inspection. "I understand, Captain. I'll ensure everything proceeds smoothly." Harlow nodded, his gaze lingering on her third eye for a moment too long. Humans always did that, stared at what made her different. She had learned not to take offense. "I know you will, Lieutenant. That's why you're here." He turned to leave, but paused. "By the way, the crew is holding a small gathering in the recreation chamber after the calibration test tomorrow. You're welcome to join." Viara hesitated. Social functions with humans were always awkward. Their customs and jokes often eluded her, and their casual physicality, the shoulder pats, the hugs, violated Aurelian personal space norms. But isolation served neither her career nor the integration mission. "Thank you, Captain. I would be honored." Later that day, Viara found herself in the medical bay for her routine physiology check. Dr. Elena Sebastian, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight knot, was examining data on a holographic display. "Your readings are normal, Lieutenant," Dr. Sebastian said without looking up. "Though your serotonin levels are lower than I'd prefer. Are you socializing with the crew?" Viara's third eye dimmed slightly, a physiological tell of discomfort. "When duty requires it." Dr. Sebastian finally met her gaze. "Integration isn't just about shared missions. It's about understanding each other. Trust." Viara noticed several vials of a vivid green liquid arranged on a nearby counter. They emitted a subtle glow that intrigued her. "Is that the reflex amplifier serum I've heard about?" Dr. Sebastian glanced at the vials. "Yes. Standard issue now for human military personnel. Enhances reaction time by up to 30%. It's been a game-changer in combat situations." "Has it been tested on Aurelians?" Viara asked, curious despite herself. "No, Dr. Sebastian's tone was firm. Your neurochemistry is too different. We're not risking cross-species testing until we have more comprehensive data. Viara moved closer to the vials, drawn by their luminescence. What does it feel like? For humans? I mean, an intense focus, heightened awareness. Some describe it as time slowing down. The doctor closed the holographic display. But each species has unique neurological pathways. What boosts human reflexes might trigger entirely different systems in Aurelians. Something in the doctor's voice, a hint of warning, perhaps, made Viara step back from the vials. Of course. I was merely curious. Dr. Sebastian's expression softened. Curiosity is good, Lieutenant. It's how we learn. Just be careful where it leads you. The weapons calibration trials the next day went flawlessly. The Aurora's Light's defensive systems responded with precision to simulated attacks, earning approving nods from the Aurelian delegation. Commander Eric Ton, his third eye a deeper indigo than Viara's, stood beside Captain Harlow on the bridge, observing the proceedings with practiced neutrality. When the demonstrations concluded, Auric requested a private moment with his younger cousin. They retreated to a small conference room off the main corridor. You seem well integrated, Viara, Auric said, his tone neither approving nor disapproving. I strive to represent our people with dignity, she replied. Auric's third eye pulsed once. Acknowledgement. There are concerns back home. Some fear that extended immersion in human culture might dilute our ways. Viara felt a flash of indignation. I maintain all proper Aurelian protocols. Do you? His gaze was penetrating. Your emotional readings show fluctuations that would be concerning on an Aurelian vessel. Humans express emotions differently, she countered. Adaptation requires understanding their patterns. Understanding, yes. Adoption, no. Auric moved toward the door. Remember who you are, cousin. The first impression you create will affect generations of integration efforts. His words weighed on her as she prepared for the evening gathering. She chose her regulation uniform rather than the casual attire humans preferred for social functions. Appearance mattered, especially with her cousin's warning fresh in her mind. The recreation chamber was already bustling when she arrived. Off-duty crew members clustered in small groups, their laughter and animated conversations filling the space with a warmth Viara found both alien and oddly comforting. She stood at the entrance, unsure where to position herself, when a young human approached. Lieutenant Ton, Ensign Ray Valen called, waving her over. The weapons officer was the youngest senior staff member, known for both her tactical brilliance and her irreverent humor. Come join us. We're celebrating a perfect calibration score. Viara moved toward the small group, which included 3 other junior officers she recognized from bridge duty. Thank you for the invitation, Ensign Valen. Please, we're off duty. Call me Ray. The human handed her a glass containing a pale blue liquid. Try this. It's a Terran specialty, Azure whiskey. Very mild. Viara accepted the glass hesitantly. Aurelians rarely consumed recreational substances, as their empathic physiology made altered states potentially overwhelming. But refusing would only reinforce the barriers she was trying to overcome. Just a small amount, she said, taking the glass. She noticed Captain Harlow watching from across the room, his expression unreadable. 2 successful cooperations, Ray said, raising her own glass. Viara mimicked the gesture, then took a cautious sip. The liquid was surprisingly pleasant, a cool sensation with a hint of sweetness that reminded her of Aurelian frostberries. What she couldn't know, was that Ray's seemingly innocent gesture concealed a thoughtless prank. The young ensign had added a drop of the reflex amplifier serum to her drink, curious about how it might affect an Aurelian. It wasn't malice, but the reckless curiosity of youth. A stupid joke meant to elicit nothing more than perhaps a mild disorientation that might make the reserved alien officer loosen up a bit. Viara, unaccustomed to human beverages and wanting to show goodwill, drank the entire contents of the glass in a few minutes. The initial sensation was pleasant enough, a warmth spreading through her chest, a lightness in her limbs that made the human chatter around her seem less overwhelming. But then, everything changed. The first sign of trouble came when her third eye began to pulse. Not the gentle rhythm of interest or the slow beat of contemplation, but a rapid, erratic flashing that caught the attention of those nearby. Viara felt a sudden rush of heat spreading from her core to her extremities, as if her blood had turned to liquid fire. "Are you all right?" someone asked, their voice distorted, as if coming from underwater. Viara tried to respond, but her tongue felt thick, uncooperative. The room tilted around her, the lights too bright, the sounds too sharp. Her empathic senses, normally carefully controlled, exploded outward, bombarding her with the emotions of everyone in the room: concern, curiosity, alarm, and beneath it all, a strange undercurrent of desire that seemed to originate from within her own body. She staggered toward the medical station at the back of the recreation chamber, aware that something was terribly wrong. Her skin felt hypersensitive, every brush of fabric against her scales sending jolts of unwanted pleasure through her nervous system. Her third eye blazed bright red now, a clear sign of physiological distress that any Aurelian would recognize as a danger signal. "Lieutenant Ton!" Captain Harlow's voice cut through the sensory overload. He was beside her suddenly, his hand on her arm. Even that simple touch sent shockwaves of sensation cascading through her system. "I need," she gasped, unable to articulate the chaos inside her. "Medical, please." Dr. Sebastian appeared, summoned by an alert from the ship's monitoring system that had detected Viara's anomalous vital signs. One look at the Aurelian's dilated pupils and erratic movements told her this was serious. "Get her to medbay," the doctor ordered. "Now." Viara was barely conscious of being transported through the corridors, the world around her dissolving into fragments of sensation. By the time they reached the medical bay, her entire body was trembling, sweat beading on her scaled skin, an unheard-of reaction for an Aurelian, whose thermal regulation system typically prevented such responses. Dr. Sebastian ran a scanner over her body, cursing softly at the readings. Her system is flooded with neurostimulants, heart rate dangerously elevated, brain activity off the charts. She looked up at Captain Harlow, who had followed them. What did she consume? "Some kind of blue drink. Ensign Valen gave it to her." The doctor's eyes narrowed. "Get Valen here, now." While they waited, Dr. Sebastian administered a mild sedative, hoping to dampen Viara's neurological storm. But the Aurelian's condition only worsened. She thrashed on the biobed, her uniform soaked with sweat, her crimson hair plastered to her face. The most alarming symptom, however, was her increasingly explicit verbalization. "It burns," she moaned, her voice uncharacteristically husky. "My skin, so sensitive. Please, make it stop." When Ensign Valen arrived, her face drained of color at the sight of Viara's condition. Under Captain Harlow's stern questioning, the truth came out. "It was just supposed to be a joke," Ray confessed, her voice small. "One drop of the reflex serum, just to see if it would make her a little more relaxed." Dr. Sebastian's expression hardened to steel. One drop? For a human, that might cause mild hyper-awareness. For an Aurelian, she gestured to Viara, who was now curled on her side, making small, desperate sounds. "Their neural pathways are completely different. You've triggered something catastrophic. Captain Harlow's voice was deadly quiet. "You're confined to quarters. Ensign, we'll discuss your future aboard this ship later." As Ray was escorted out, Dr. Sebastian turned back to her patient. "I need to understand what's happening to her." She activated a deeper scan, focusing on Viara's brain and neural pathways. The holographic display above the biobed revealed a stunning cascade of activity, centered around a cluster of neurons that glowed bright red in the simulation. "This is unprecedented," the doctor murmured. "The serum has bonded with receptors in her limbic system, but it's triggering responses in what appears to be—" She paused, checking a reference database. "These are Aurelian mating cycle neurons. They should be dormant unless triggered by specific hormonal changes." "Mating cycle," Captain Harlow repeated, his professional demeanor slipping momentarily. "Yes. The serum is essentially forcing her body into a state of intense arousal. For Aurelians, this is normally a controlled, ritualistic process that occurs only under specific circumstances." Dr. Sebastian's face was grim. "She's experiencing a neurochemical reaction her body and mind weren't prepared for. Can you counteract it?" "I'm trying." The doctor adjusted the sedative formula. "But her system is metabolizing everything I administer too quickly. The serum has accelerated all her functions." Hours passed, and Viara's condition stabilized only in the sense that it didn't worsen. But the Aurelian remained in a state of extreme distress, alternating between periods of incoherent moaning and moments of startling lucidity, where the shame of her condition brought her to tears. During one such lucid interval, she gripped Dr. Sebastian's hand with surprising strength. "Am I dying?" she asked, her voice raw. "No," the doctor assured her. "But your body is experiencing something it wasn't prepared for." "I feel—" Viara struggled for words, her third eye pulsing with each labored breath. "I feel everything. Too much. My skin is burning. And there's this need." Her voice broke on the last word. Dr. Sebastian hesitated, then spoke gently. "Your body has been forced into a mating cycle state. The sensations you're experiencing are sexual in nature." Viara's third eye widened, then dimmed with shame. "No, not here. Not like this. In Aurelian culture, mating cycles were sacred, private matters, undertaken with preparation and ritual. To be thrown into such a state accidentally, surrounded by humans who couldn't possibly understand, was beyond humiliating." "What happens if this continues?" Captain Harlow asked, from where he stood at the foot of the biobed. Dr. Sebastian's expression was grave. "If we can't find a way to reset her neural pathways, the constant stimulation could cause permanent damage. The human reflex serum is designed to be temporary, but it's bonded with her Aurelian receptors in ways we don't fully understand." "There must be something we can do," Harlow insisted. The doctor was silent for a moment, studying the neural scans. "There might be—" She turned to Viara. "Lieutenant, in normal Aurelian mating cycles, how is the cycle typically resolved?" Even in her distressed state, Viara flushed deeper crimson. "Through the completion of the bonding ritual. The climax breaks the neurological loop." "You mean—" "Sexual release," Viara confirmed, unable to meet their eyes. "But it's not just physical. For Aurelians, it involves an empathic connection, a mutual surrender. It's sacred." A heavy silence fell over the medbay. The implications were clear, but uncomfortable for everyone present. "I'll need to consult with the Aurelian medical database," Dr. Sebastian finally said. "Perhaps there's an alternative treatment recorded for interrupted mating cycles." But the database offered little hope. The few documented cases of disrupted mating cycles in Aurelian medical history had all required the traditional resolution. Synthetic alternatives had been attempted, but had proven ineffective or dangerous. By the second day, Viara's condition had deteriorated further. The constant state of arousal had left her exhausted, yet unable to rest. Her empathic senses, overwhelmed by the neurochemical storm, began projecting her distress outward, affecting sensitive crew members who passed near the medbay. Commander Arik Tan, still aboard after delaying his departure due to the crisis, contacted the ship via holographic link. His expression was a mask of controlled fury when informed of the situation. "This is outrageous," he stated. "An Aurelian officer reduced to this state through human carelessness. It was the action of one individual, not our policy," Captain Harlow countered. "We're doing everything possible to help Lieutenant Tan. Are you?" Eric's third eye narrowed to a sliver of indigo. "Our medical experts suggest there is only one reliable solution to an activated mating cycle." Harlow's jaw tightened. "Dr. Sebastian has explained the complexities. We're exploring all options. See that you do, Captain, and ensure no word of this spreads beyond those directly involved. If Viara is compromised in the eyes of our people, her career and this integration program will be finished." The holographic image flickered out before Harlow could respond. The pressure of Eric's warning added to the already tense atmosphere aboard the Aurora's light. Though Captain Harlow had ordered absolute discretion, whispers inevitably circulated. Some crew members expressed genuine concern. Others exhibited the subtle signs of prejudice that had never fully disappeared despite decades of interspecies cooperation. "I heard the Aurelians gone into some kind of heat," one engineer muttered in the mess hall. "Like an animal," Science Officer Keiko Ramos, who had been working with Dr. Sebastian to understand Viara's condition, overheard and confronted him. "Lieutenant Tan is experiencing a severe medical reaction to a substance that was never tested on her species. Show some respect." Such exchanges happened in corners throughout the ship, revealing the fragile nature of human-Aurelian relations. Meanwhile, in the medbay, Viara suffered not only physically, but emotionally, aware that her private crisis had become ship-wide knowledge. During a moment of clarity, she called Captain Harlow to her side. "I've heard the rumors," she said, her voice weak but determined. "This incident threatens everything we've worked for." Harlow took a seat beside her biobed. "Focus on your recovery, Lieutenant. Let me worry about the crew. Recovery may not be possible without—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Dr. Sebastian is still searching for alternatives." Viara's third eye pulsed with a flash of frustration. "There are none. Not in time." She took a shuddering breath. "Captain, I need to ask something impossible." Harlow waited, his expression carefully neutral. "The Aurelian mating cycle, once activated, must be completed. It requires a partner." Her scales flushed darker. "Someone I trust. Someone who understands the gravity of what's happening." The implication hung in the air between them. Harlow stood abruptly. "Lieutenant, you're not in your right mind. The serum—" "Is killing me," she interrupted. "Slowly but surely. My neural pathways are burning out. I can feel it." She reached for his hand, a gesture so uncharacteristic for an Aurelian that it emphasized her desperation. "I wouldn't ask if there were any other way." Harlow withdrew his hand gently. "Let me consult with Dr. Sebastian. There must be another solution." But the doctor's assessment only confirmed Viara's claims. Her neural scans show deterioration. Dr. Sebastian reported privately to the captain. "The constant stimulation is damaging delicate structures in her brain. If this continues much longer, recovery becomes less likely." "And the alternatives?" "We've tried everything medically sound. Sedation only slows the process. Neural blockers are ineffective due to the unique way the serum has bonded with her receptors." The doctor hesitated. "There is one last option," But it's experimental and risky. A targeted electromagnetic pulse might disrupt the neural pattern, essentially rebooting her system. Side effects? Potential memory loss, possible damage to her empathic center, and no guarantee of success. Dr. Sebastian met his gaze directly. Captain, I believe Lieutenant Tan is correct about the most effective resolution. Harlow paced the small office adjacent to the medbay. What you're suggesting violates every regulation regarding officer conduct. I'm not suggesting anything, Captain. I'm stating a medical fact. The surest way to resolve an Aurelian mating cycle is through its natural conclusion. The doctor's tone was clinical, but her eyes reflected the ethical complexity of the situation. The choice, of course, is not mine to make. That night, after most of the crew had retired and the ship's lighting had dimmed to night cycle, Captain Harlow returned to the medbay. He found Viara alone. The monitoring equipment casting eerie shadows across her sweat-slicked skin. Her condition had worsened. She thrashed weakly against restraints that had been necessary to prevent her from harming herself during particularly intense episodes. When she saw him, her third eye flickered with recognition. "Captain," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse from hours of involuntary vocalizations. "How are you feeling?" he asked, knowing the question was inadequate. A bitter laugh escaped her. "I'm dying of pleasure." Ironic, isn't it? He moved closer, noticing that her scales had lost some of their luster, a bad sign for Aurelian physiology. Dr. Sebastian mentioned an experimental procedure, an electromagnetic pulse. "That might leave me a shell," she interrupted. "My empathic center is who I am, Captain. Without it, I'm not Viara anymore." Her restraints rattled as another wave of sensation visibly coursed through her. When it passed, she continued, "There's only one way. You know it. I know it." "It's against regulations," he said, but his protest sounded hollow, even to his own ears. "So is letting an officer die when you could prevent it." Her third eye fixed on him with surprising intensity. "I choose this, Mark, with full awareness of what I'm asking." The use of his first name, something she had never done before, struck him deeply. It was a recognition of the personal nature of what she was requesting, a step beyond their professional relationship. "If we do this," he said slowly, "it must remain absolutely confidential. No record, no report." Hope flickered in her third eye. "You'll help me." Instead of answering directly, he began to release her restraints. "Tell me what you need me to do." Viara's instructions were specific, but delivered with a vulnerability that belied her usual composure. The Aurelian mating ritual required certain touches, specific pressure points that would channel the overwhelming energy coursing through her system. More importantly, it required trust, an empathic opening that was sacred in her culture. "My third eye," she explained as Harlow helped her to a more comfortable position. "It's not just for seeing. It's how we connect, empathically. During the ritual, you must maintain eye contact with it." Harlow nodded, his training in xenobiology providing some context, but not nearly enough to fully understand the significance of what they were about to do. "And then? Then I guide you. There are patterns of touch that trigger the release." Despite her desperate condition, Viara maintained a dignity that Harlow found profoundly moving. This wasn't just a physical act for her. It was a cultural and spiritual one that she was sharing with him out of necessity, but also trust. What followed was an experience unlike anything in Harlow's military career. Under Viara's guidance, he learned the intricate patterns of Aurelian intimacy, how the scales along her spine responded to light pressure, how the temperature of his touch affected her neural response, how maintaining contact with her third eye created a feedback loop of sensation that built toward release. For Viara, the experience was both salvation and revelation. The overwhelming, chaotic arousal that had threatened to destroy her neural pathways gradually transformed under Harlow's careful ministrations. What had been torture became a controlled ascension, guided by ancient Aurelian patterns, but made unique by the human touch she had never expected to welcome. As they moved through the ritual, a strange phenomenon occurred. Harlow began to feel echoes of Viara's sensations, as if her empathic projection had created a temporary bond between them. He experienced flashes of her emotions, the initial shame giving way to relief, trust blossoming into something deeper, and beneath it all, a gratitude that transcended words. The culmination, when it came, was both physical and something more. Viara's third eye blazed with an intensity that should have been painful to look at, but Harlow found he couldn't look away. Her body arched, trembled, then went still as the neural cascade reached its peak and broke the cycle that had threatened her life. In the aftermath, they lay together on the narrow biobed, Harlow cradling her exhausted form as her breathing slowly normalized. Her third eye had shifted from the angry red of crisis to a peaceful emerald glow. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice steady for the first time in days. Harlow brushed a strand of crimson hair from her face. "How do you feel?" "Like myself again." She met his gaze, her expression solemn. "What happened between us?" "Stays between us," he finished. "A medical necessity. Nothing more." Something flickered in her third eye. Perhaps disappointment, perhaps relief. Of course, Dr. Sebastian's arrival interrupted any further conversation. The doctor took one look at Viara's improved condition and the altered neural readings on the monitor and understood what had occurred. With professional discretion, she simply nodded to Harlow and began scanning Viara thoroughly. "The serum's grip on your receptors is weakening," she announced after reviewing the results. "The resolution triggered the release of natural Aurelian hormones that are displacing the synthetic compounds. You'll need rest, but I believe the worst is over." The next challenge came in the form of Ensign Ray Valen, who had been summoned from confinement to face the consequences of her actions. The young officer stood before Captain Harlow's desk, her usual confidence replaced by genuine remorse. "I never meant to hurt her," Ray said, her voice small. "It was stupid and thoughtless. I just thought... I don't even know what I thought." "You didn't think at all," Harlow replied sharply. "You risked an officer's life and potentially set back human-Aurelian relations by years." "Is she... will she be okay?" "Lieutenant Tian is recovering. No thanks to you." Harlow leaned forward. "The question now is what happens to you, Ensign." Ray straightened. "I accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate, sir." "Discharge would be the standard response." Harlow watched her face pale. "However, Lieutenant Tan has requested leniency." Surprise registered on Ray's features. "She has. On one condition, that you dedicate yourself to learning about Aurelian physiology and culture, that you become an advocate for proper cross-species medical protocols." He fixed her with a stern gaze. "One mistake, however serious, need not define your career, if you learn from it." Tears welled in Ray's eyes. "I will, sir. I swear it." The incident's ripple effects extended beyond individual officers. Commander Eric Tan demanded a full briefing on the resolution of his cousin's condition. Captain Harlow, with Dr. Sebastian's support, provided a carefully edited account that emphasized the medical aspects while omitting the specific nature of the treatment protocol that had saved Viara. "Our science team has developed a neutralizing agent based on what we learned," Dr. Sebastian explained during the briefing. "It should prevent similar reactions in the future, should accidental exposure occur again. Aric's holographic image regarded them suspiciously. "And my cousin? She has recovered fully?" "She's resting comfortably," Dr. Sebastian confirmed. "All neural scans show normal Aurelian patterns. The crisis has passed." "I will need to speak with her directly," Aric insisted. "Of course. When she's strong enough." The conversation Viara ultimately had with her cousin was one she had rehearsed carefully. Seated in her quarters, still weak, but determined to present a composed front, she faced his holographic projection. "You appear well," Aric observed, his third eye scrutinizing her. "I am recovered," she replied simply. The human's report was incomplete. They mentioned a specialized treatment protocol, but offered few details. His tone suggested suspicion. Viara maintained steady eye contact. "The treatment was effective. That's what matters." "Is it? Or does the dignity of our people matter more?" Aric leaned closer, his holographic form seeming to invade her personal space despite the thousands of kilometers separating them. "There are rumors, Viara, whispers that you required assistance of an intimate nature." She had expected this. "And if I did?" The alternative was neural collapse. "There are worse fates than death for an Aurelian of standing." His voice was cold. "A tribunal will want answers. Then I will give them—" Viara's third eye pulsed with unexpected strength. "I will tell them that I faced a crisis not of my making and survived it with dignity intact. That the humans, despite one individual's error, showed respect for our ways and dedication to my well-being." "You've changed," Aric observed, his tone suggesting this wasn't a compliment. "Perhaps I have," she straightened. "Perhaps understanding comes at the cost of certain rigidities." Their conversation ended with an uneasy truce. Aric could not deny that Viara had survived and seemed whole. But his warning about a tribunal lingered in the air long after his holographic form had dissipated. In the days that followed, Viara gradually resumed her duties. The crew treated her with a mixture of respect and careful distance, uncertain how to interact with her after what had happened. Some avoided eye contact altogether. Others were overly solicitous. Only Captain Harlow treated her exactly as before, professional, respectful, with no hint of awkwardness, except for the moments when their eyes met across the bridge. And something unspoken passed between them, a shared secret, a profound understanding, perhaps something more. The final confrontation came unexpectedly, during a routine inspection of the weapons bay, where the incident had begun. Viara and Captain Harlow found themselves alone, examining the storage unit, where the reflex amplifier serum was kept, now under significantly enhanced security protocols. "Science Officer Ramos reports that the neutralizing agent has been successfully synthesized," Harlow commented, his tone deliberately casual. "All Aurelian visitors will be issued emergency injectors, just in case." "A sensible precaution," Viara agreed. Then, after a moment of hesitation, "Captain, Mark, we haven't spoken about what happened." He turned to face her fully. "I thought that was intentional." "It was, but perhaps incorrect." Her third eye pulsed with an emotion Harlow couldn't interpret. "In Aurelian culture, what we shared goes beyond physical necessity, the empathic connection during the ritual. It leaves an imprint." Harlow's expression remained neutral, but his pulse quickened. "What kind of imprint?" "An awareness, a recognition." She moved closer, her voice dropping. "I feel your presence now, even when you're not in the room. I sense your emotional state. It's unprecedented for an Aurelian to experience this with a human." "Is it dangerous?" he asked. Practical concerns surfacing first. A small smile touched her lips. "Only to certain regulations regarding fraternization." The implication hung between them. neither willing to be the first to acknowledge it directly. "The tribunal my cousin mentioned," Viara continued, when Harlow remained silent. "It will happen. They will question everything about the incident." "And what will you tell them?" Her third eye fixed on him with unwavering intensity. "The truth. That a human captain risked his career to save my life. That he showed more respect for Aurelian ways than some of my own people would have. That he—" She hesitated. "That he gave me back myself when I was lost." Harlow's professional reserve cracked slightly. "Viara, what happened was necessary. But the regulations exist for a reason. Power dynamics. Chain of command." "I'm aware of the complexity," she interrupted. "I'm not proposing we rush into anything inappropriate. I'm simply acknowledging that something has changed between us. Something that cannot be undone or ignored." Before Harlow could respond, the ship's alert system sounded. A message flashed across their communication devices. The Aurelian Tribunal delegation had arrived early and was requesting immediate boarding. Reality reasserted itself with jarring speed. Whatever personal revelations might have been shared would have to wait. The tribunal was conducted with typical Aurelian formality. 3 senior officers, their third eyes the deep indigo of judicial authority, questioned Viara extensively about the incident. Captain Harlow and Dr. Sebastian were also summoned to provide testimony. Throughout the proceedings, Viara maintained the dignified composure expected of an Aurelian officer. She neither minimized the severity of what had happened nor dramatized her suffering. When asked directly about the treatment protocol that had resolved her crisis, she answered with measured honesty. "Captain Harlow assisted me in completing the interrupted mating cycle," she stated, her voice steady despite the shocked ripple that passed through the tribunal panel. "He did so with respect, compassion, and strict adherence to Aurelian ritual practices that I guided him through." The senior judge's third eye narrowed. "This is highly irregular. Lieutenant Tan, some would consider it a violation of our most sacred traditions." "With respect, Elder," Viara countered. "Our traditions evolved to preserve life and dignity. Both would have been lost had the captain not intervened. The alternative was neural collapse, or an experimental procedure with potentially devastating side effects." When Captain Harlow was called to testify, he faced the tribunal with the same forthright manner he brought to all challenges. "I made a command decision to save an officer under my authority," he stated simply. Lieutenant Tan's expertise guided the process. At no point was there disrespect for Aurelian customs. The questioning was rigorous, probing for any hint of impropriety or exploitation. Both Viara and Harlow were subjected to empathic scans that, while invasive, confirmed the truth of their accounts. In the end, the tribunal reached a conclusion that satisfied neither the strictest traditionalists nor those hoping for punitive measures against the humans. Lieutenant Viara Tan would remain aboard the Aurora's Light, continuing the integration program. New protocols would be established for cross-species medical emergencies, and the incident would be recorded as an unfortunate accident with a successful medical resolution, the specific details sealed from general access. As the tribunal members departed, Commander Arik Tan sought out his cousin one final time. "You've changed," he said again, but this time without judgment. "Yes," Viara agreed. "Crisis tends to do that." The human captain. Arik's third eye pulsed with curiosity. "There's something unresolved between you." Viara didn't deny it. "There are many uncharted territories in this integration program, cousin. Not all of them appear on star maps." Arik studied her for a long moment. "Be careful, Viara. Not all changes serve us well. And not all traditions protect us from what truly matters." She touched his arm lightly, a gesture of familial respect. "Safe journey, cousin. I'll make you proud, even if it's not in the way you expected." After the delegation's departure, The Aurora's light prepared to leave the Talter Nebula station. A new mission awaited, and with it, the opportunity to move beyond the crisis that had nearly claimed Viara's life and career. On the observation deck, Viara stood alone, watching the nebula's swirling colors. She sensed Captain Harlow's approach before she heard his footsteps, a new awareness that still startled her with its clarity. "Lieutenant," he greeted her formally as he came to stand beside her. "Captain," she responded in kind, conscious of the public setting. They watched the cosmic display in companionable silence before Harlow spoke again, his voice low. "The tribunal's decision seems fair." "Yes, wiser than I expected." Another pause, weighted with unspoken thoughts. "What happens now?" Harlow finally asked, the question encompassing far more than their immediate mission. Viara's third eye pulsed with a gentle emerald light. "We continue the work of integration. We learn from what happened, and perhaps—" her gaze met his directly. "Perhaps we explore what it means that an Aurelian and a human can share an empathic bond. Is that possible? Officially, I mean, there is no precedent," she acknowledged. "But then, much of what happens aboard this ship is without precedent." A small smile curved her lips. "I believe humans have a saying about boldly going where none have gone before." Harlow returned her smile, the professional mask slipping just enough to reveal the man beneath. "Something like that." As the Aurora's light disengaged from the station and set course for its next destination, Viara felt a profound sense of possibility. The crisis had nearly destroyed her, but in surviving it, she had discovered strengths she hadn't known she possessed and connections she'd never imagined possible. The future remained uncertain. A tribunal's judgment could be reversed. Regulations could be enforced. Cultures could clash in new and unexpected ways. But in this moment, watching the stars stretch into streaks of light as the ship accelerated, Viara knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was exactly where she needed to be, becoming who she was meant to become, one unprecedented step at a time. And beside her stood a human who had seen her at her most vulnerable and still respected her strength, a foundation for whatever might come next in this ongoing mission of discovery and integration. The universe, with all its dangers and wonders, awaited them both.